Your engine cranks, then dies, or stalls out mid-drive with no warning lights, no codes, just chaos. One hidden culprit causes this more than you think: a failing crankshaft position sensor. When it sends bad data, your ECU scrambles spark and fuel timing. In this video, we'll reveal 6 clear symptoms to catch it before it leaves you stranded. Number 1. Check engine light comes on. One of the earliest and most common warning signs is the check engine light illuminating on your dashboard. Since the PCM constantly monitors the CKP sensor circuit, any malfunction will trigger a diagnostic trouble code and turn on the check engine light. In practice, drivers might notice a code like P0335 when scanned. While a glowing check engine light can mean many issues, it's often one of the first clues of a crank sensor problem. Don't ignore this light if it stays on along with any of the other symptoms below. Have the sensor checked right away. Number 2. Engine won't start or hard to start. A very clear sign of a failing CKP sensor is when the engine won't start or is hard to crank over. The crank sensor tells the ECU when each piston is in the correct position to fire a spark and inject fuel. If the sensor dies, the PCM doesn't know when to fire the spark plugs and pulse the fuel injectors, so the engine may crank but refuse to start. You may hear the starter motor clicking repeatedly, or the car may crank unusually long before finally catching. This problem can be especially noticeable in cold weather, or after the car has been off for a long time. If your car suddenly develops a hard start or no start issue, even though the battery and fuel are fine, suspect the CKP sensor. Number 3. Engine stalling or sudden shutdown. A faulty CKP sensor often causes intermittent stalling while driving or at idle. Because a dying sensor can send erratic or weak signals, the ECU loses track of engine timing. This can literally starve the engine of spark or fuel at the wrong moment, causing it to stall without warning. In some cases, the engine will suddenly shut off even at highway speeds, an especially dangerous situation. Drivers might describe this as the car cutting out while idling or stumbling and dying when under load. In any case, frequent stalling or an engine that dies unexpectedly is a red flag that the crankshaft position sensor may be failing. Number 4. Rough idle and misfires. If the engine runs roughly or misfires, the crank sensor could be to blame. A bad sensor can't consistently tell the ECU when each cylinder is at top dead center, so ignition timing becomes erratic. The result is that one or more cylinders fire at the wrong time, causing jerking motions, sputtering, or a rough, uneven idle. You might feel the car shudder or hesitate, especially when accelerating or under load. These misfires, if left unaddressed, can also lead to other engine problems down the road. Any unexplained shaking or roughness in the engine's idle or acceleration can indicate a failing crank position sensor. Number 5. Engine vibrations or shaking. A related symptom is excessive engine vibration, particularly noticeable when idling or at low speed. Because the CKP sensor failure throws off the engine's timing, the engine may not run smoothly. You might feel unusual vibrations or rough running, even when the car is stationary. Christian Brothers. Automotive notes that a bad crank sensor often leads to increased vibration and rough riding. Likewise, Foxwell's guide explains that incorrect timing data causes erratic engine operation, resulting in such vibrations. So if your car starts shaking more than usual at idle, and you've ruled out other causes like spark plugs or mounts, the crankshaft position sensor is a likely culprit. Number 6. Poor acceleration and hesitation. Another clue is poor throttle response. The car hesitates or lags when you press the gas pedal. With a healthy CKP sensor, the ECU smoothly coordinates ignition timing and fuel injection when you accelerate. When the sensor is bad, that timing gets scrambled, so the engine may stumble or chug as you try to pick up speed. You might notice that the car feels underpowered or slow to accelerate after a clean start. If acceleration feels flat or hesitant and other engine issues are present, the crankshaft sensor should be checked. Number 7. Decreased fuel economy. Finally, a failing CKP sensor often leads to worse fuel economy. Because the engine is not running efficiently or is misfiring, it burns more fuel than normal. Car Parts notes that an engine roughened by a faulty sensor will experience a reduction in fuel efficiency. Foxwell's guide similarly points out that the CPS controls the timing of fuel injection, so if it malfunctions, the engine could consume excessively more fuel than necessary. If you suddenly find yourself filling up more often, and especially if this comes along with any of the above symptoms, check the crankshaft position sensor as a potential cause. Any combination of these symptoms, check engine light, hard starts, stalling, rough idle, vibration, sluggish acceleration, and poor mileage is a strong warning of a failing crankshaft position sensor. It's not a problem to ignore. Prolonged operation with a bad sensor can cause more engine wear or leave you stranded. If you notice any of these signs, have the car diagnosed promptly. An OBD2 scan tool can check for a CKP-related code, often P0335, and many sensors are relatively inexpensive to replace. Catching a bad crankshaft position sensor early will save you time and money.